Hey guys, it's Scott at Modeler X. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Working on the AMT 1650 Klingon D7, and what I'm going to do is strengthen the attachment, or prepare for the attachment of the boom to the main hull here. And I've drawn an outline on the front, but this is where it attaches. So I just took a red pen and drew where that goes. So I'm going to drill a couple of pilot holes here. We're going to have screws coming from the inside of the secondary hull into the boom, and I'll just take a hobby knife and get a couple holes here. On the boom side, I'm going to fill those little tail sections with epoxy, let it harden, and then the screws from the inside here will go into the boom and grab that epoxy and make that connection a lot stronger than just gluing the outside with good old testers. I'm also going to take a 1/8 inch brass rod and run it right through the neck, which will kind of give it some rigidity, but it's also a great way to get the wiring from the inside of the main hull down to the boom without it getting all tangled up. The brass rod will come back through there. So these are the little cavities that I'm going to fill with epoxy. Once that epoxy hardens, then like I said, the screws coming from the inside of the hull will grab that. This is this epoxy that sort of has two sides to it. If you're not familiar with epoxy, it's a resin and then a catalyst, a hardener. And separately, they stay liquidy. When you mix them together, there's a chemical reaction which causes it to harden, but you've got 5 minutes. Let's see here. Me a little trouble. All right, there we go. So I'm just squirting this onto an index card, and probably want a decent amount of this. So I just take a stick here and stir this stuff up. We're going to kind of scrape it and just sort of goop it into these little, let's call them boom pits. How about that? We'll just make something up here. The stuff is pretty thick, so I'm not worried about it oozing back out too much. Probably seal these two halves together. If I do that, I'll need to put the brass rod in to make sure that it's still got enough that the epoxy doesn't interfere with the rod going in there. And so the epoxy doesn't stick to the rod, what we'll probably do is wrap the rod in paper, like a sticky note or a Post-it note, and that'll prevent the epoxy sticking to the brass rod, but we'll allow the brass rod to get in there and keep the epoxy from obscuring that that little route that the brass rod will take up to the nose of the boom. Let's speed this up a little bit here. All right, now the brass rod and the paper. Let's get some tape. As you can see, I've wrapped the paper around the brass rod and taped it with some Scotch tape. And we'll just get our tape ready to tape the boom together, but we'll just lay this right in here. And then close up the other side. There we are. This thing lined up. And we'll just tape the neck here. That'll hold the front end together. And we'll just let this thing dry. We'll probably leave this overnight. So this is what we got after the epoxy is hardened on both sides here. And the rod fits perfectly from stem to stern, as they say. So now we got to apply paint to the inside for light blocking and seal her up, and that should do it. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.